Count Dooku's role in initiating the Clone Wars is supported by direct actions, documented alliances, and explicit strategic decisions depicted across canonical sources. His departure from the Jedi Order was not an isolated ideological break, but the first operational step toward constructing the political and military conditions needed for large-scale conflict. Evidence from Tales of the Jedi, Attack of the Clones, the Clone Wars series, and ancillary materials consistently shows Dooku shaping both sides of the war before hostilities formally began. Dooku's first strategic move was consolidating the discontent of planetary governments. In Attack of the Clones, Obi-Wan Kenobi identifies that thousands of systems have aligned with Dooku's separatist movement. The scale of this shift indicates long-term diplomacy conducted outside the awareness of the Republic or the Jedi. Dooku did not recruit extremists alone. He built a coalition of influential corporations, political dissidents, and economically strained regions. These groups joined under different motivations, but Dooku's leadership unified them into a coherent political bloc. The creation of the Confederacy of Independent Systems cannot be separated from Dooku's personal credibility. As a former Jedi Master, he possessed an authoritative reputation that allowed him to legitimize secession as a morally defensible option. His public speeches emphasized governmental corruption, Senate gridlock, and Jedi detachment. This rhetoric targeted real weaknesses in the Republic's governance and made the separatist movement appear reformative rather than radical. His persuasive authority enabled widespread support, providing the separatists with diplomatic cover and operational momentum. Parallel to political organization, Dooku initiated clandestine military infrastructure. Evidence from the Clone Wars and Tales of the Jedi confirms his involvement in the creation of the Clone Army through the manipulation of Sifo Dyas. By either directing or exploiting Sifo Dyas's foresight concerning galactic instability, Dooku ensured that a Republic-controlled army would exist before any official declaration of war. His subsequent assassination of Sifo Dyas eliminated oversight, allowing the Kaminoan project to continue unmonitored. The Kaminoan contract required financial resources beyond the capacity of a single renegade Jedi. Dooku secured funding through systems and organizations that would later join the separatists, as indicated by financial records mentioned in Darth Tyrannus. Age of the Republic. This created a structural paradox. Separatist-aligned capital funded a Republic army that would eventually fight those same systems. Dooku engineered this paradox intentionally, ensuring long-term destabilization regardless of the war's outcome. In addition to the clone army, Dooku expanded the separatist military through partnerships with the Trade Federation, Corporate Alliance, Techno Union, and Commerce Guild. These groups provided droid armies, naval forces, weapons manufacturing sites, and supply chains. In Attack of the Clones, the Geonosian war room scene demonstrates that these entities committed troops and funding only after Dooku's direct negotiation. His leadership transformed scattered private militaries into a unified fighting force capable of challenging the Republic. Dooku also implemented a multi-phase strategy of political sabotage and targeted violence. His orchestration of the Naboo blockade crisis, the assassination attempts on Senator Amidala, and the manipulation of extremist factions such as Death Watch created a pattern of escalating instability. These events pressured the Senate into granting Chancellor Palpatine emergency powers. Dooku's actions therefore simultaneously justified and necessitated the Republic's militarization, aligning precisely with the requirements of Palpatine's long-term design. The Jedi Order's transition into wartime leadership was another outcome of Dooku's planning. Multiple episodes of the Clone Wars depict separatist actions designed to overstretch Jedi resources, forcing them to assume military roles inconsistent with their institutional doctrine. Dooku's attacks on supply lines, infrastructure, and neutral systems generated crises that required immediate Jedi intervention, weakening the Order's diplomatic influence and placing it in direct combat environments. Direct evidence of Dooku's sabotage of peace efforts appears repeatedly in the series. Every negotiation that approached resolution was interrupted by coordinated attacks from factions under his influence. The bombing of the Jedi Temple hangar, the outbreak on Naboo, and the manufactured conflict on Onderon are examples where near peace was derailed through operations traceable to Dooku. He systematically prevented de-escalation to prolong the conflict. Dooku also participated personally in tactical operations that ensured the war's continuation. His duel with Obi-Wan and Anakin on Geonosis, his guidance of Asajj Ventress, his command of General Grievous, and his numerous covert missions illustrate that he was not a symbolic leader, but an active combatant. His direct intervention maintained separatist morale and operational continuity, reinforcing his central role in sustaining the war effort. Evidence suggests that Dooku expected the Jedi to oppose him militarily. His recruitment of force-sensitive assassins, such as Savage Opress, and the establishment of training facilities for dark side operatives demonstrate that he anticipated and prepared for Jedi resistance. These actions indicate a deliberate effort to create a conflict that would drain Jedi resources and expose weaknesses in their institutional structure. Dooku also exploited weaknesses in the Republic's political system. He targeted planets with resource shortages, bureaucratic neglect, or regional grievances. Episodes dealing with Pantora, Mandalore, and Ryloth show Dooku either escalating local conflicts or leveraging local leaders to push systems towards secession. His methodical approach suggests an analytical assessment of planetary vulnerabilities followed by targeted destabilization. The communications traced in the Clone Wars arc concerning Senator Mina Bonteri further illustrate Dooku's manipulative approach. While projecting an image of diplomacy, he simultaneously authorized military actions that undermined her efforts. This dual strategy ensured that even sincere separatist leaders remained tools within a larger design they did not control. Dooku's ability to hide his Sith identity was central to the war's success. By maintaining the facade of a political idealist, he avoided suspicion from both the separatists and the Jedi. The Order attributed his actions to ideological extremism rather than Sith doctrine, allowing him to operate within a conceptual blind spot the Jedi never resolved. Every element of the Clone Wars, political fragmentation, military build-up, economic mobilization, and Jedi militarization, can be traced to Dooku's direct involvement. He was not simply reacting to events, he engineered the conditions under which those events occurred. His dual role as public separatist leader and covert Sith Lord placed him at the intersection of both sides of the conflict. In sum, Count Dooku's contributions to the onset of the Clone Wars were systemic, intentional, and wide-ranging. Through political persuasion, military coordination, targeted destabilization, and clandestine operations, he shaped the Republic and the Separatists into adversaries. The war did not arise spontaneously. Its foundations were constructed by Dooku long before the first battle on Geonosis, and the evidence demonstrates that the conflict was the result of deliberate design rather than organic escalation. Count Dooku's role in shaping the Clone Wars as a targeted response to the Jedi Order is supported by explicit dialogues, documented strategies, and canon-compliant behavioral patterns. His departure from the Jedi was rooted in structural dissatisfaction, and the war he later engineered functioned as a systemic indictment of the Order's perceived failures. Tales of the Jedi, the Clone Wars, and Attack of the Clones depict a consistent trajectory in which Dooku's grievances transform into operational decisions aimed at weakening or dismantling Jedi influence. Dooku's disillusionment with the Order developed over decades. Canon material indicates that he viewed the Jedi as politically compromised and overly dependent on the Republic. Episodes featuring Dooku and Master Yaddle show clear ideological divergence, particularly concerning the Senate's corruption and the Jedi's passivity. These early signs illustrate that his separation from the Order was not abrupt, but emerged from long-term philosophical conflict. After leaving the Jedi, Dooku reframed these ideological differences into actionable strategies. His speeches in Attack of the Clones selectively referenced genuine Republic dysfunction to attract planetary leaders, while simultaneously using these grievances to justify separatist militarization. This dual approach both undermined the Jedi's credibility and positioned Dooku as a reformist alternative, even though the reform narrative serves Sith objectives. Dooku's collaboration with Darth Sidious demonstrates intent to place the Jedi into unwinnable positions. Scenes throughout the Clone Wars show the two coordinating operations that force the Jedi into conflict roles. By dragging the Jedi into military command, Dooku exploited their doctrinal limitations. The Order transitioned from mediators to generals, a shift that eroded public trust and strained their internal structure. An important dimension of Dooku's revenge involve manipulating the Jedi's ethical framework. Many arcs feature Dooku creating moral dilemmas where any Jedi decision results in reputational harm. For example, his false flag operations on Mandalore, Onderon, and Ryloth ensured that Jedi interventions appeared either oppressive or ineffective. These events progressively damaged the perception of Jedi neutrality. Dooku also targeted the Jedi through misinformation. In multiple episodes, separatist intelligence networks leak or fabricate data designed to misdirect Jedi responses. This tactic produced operational failures that weakened confidence in the Order's strategic competence. By controlling both the conflict's initiation and its informational environment, Dooku narrowed the Jedi's options and heightened their exposure. The enlistment of dark side agents further supports the conclusion that Dooku intended to diminish the Jedi through attrition. His training of Asajj Ventress, Savage Opress, and other operatives created direct threats tailored to exploit Jedi vulnerabilities. These agents attacked Jedi temples, supply outposts, and diplomatic envoys. Such operations reveal a targeted campaign to reduce both Jedi morale and manpower. Dooku also ensured that the war's escalation removed opportunities for negotiation. Separate story arcs depict him intentionally sabotaging peace initiatives, such as those led by Senator Bonteri or attempted by neutral systems. His interventions prevented diplomatic resolution and forced the Jedi to continue participating in prolonged military campaigns, intensifying their institutional decline. The structure of the Clone Wars itself advanced Dooku's objective. Since the Jedi served as Republic generals, their casualties and failures reflected directly on the Order. Meanwhile, Dooku publicly presented himself as a political leader rather than a Sith combatant. This asymmetry allowed him to orchestrate battles where the Jedi bore the reputational consequences, while he maintained the image of a legitimate separatist figurehead. Dooku's manipulation of Anakin Skywalker is another critical component of his anti-Jedi strategy. In encounters across the films and series, Dooku repeatedly attempts to provoke Anakin's emotional instability, knowing that Anakin represents both the Jedi's strongest asset and their greatest liability. By escalating conflicts that test Anakin's restraint, Dooku contributed to the internal pressure that later led to the Order's downfall. The capture and execution attempts targeting Jedi Masters such as Plo Koon, Eeth Koth, and Luminara Unduli demonstrate direct efforts to eliminate experienced leadership within the Order. Although some of these attempts were unsuccessful, they reflect a broader pattern of selective targeting aimed at destabilizing Jedi command structure and training continuity. The war's duration served Dooku's interests as well. Prolonged conflict diverted Jedi attention away from internal reflection and institutional reform. Episodes focusing on Jedi councils reveal that the pressure of constant crisis reduced the Order's ability to detect Sith activity or investigate structural threats. Dooku's actions ensured that the Jedi operated in a reactive posture, incapable of addressing root causes of galactic instability. By shaping the separatist movement, Dooku turned public opinion against the Jedi. Civilian casualties, destroyed infrastructure, and political disruptions created environments where Jedi intervention appeared to exacerbate rather than resolve conflict. This perception made it easier for Palpatine to later justify the Jedi Purge. Dooku's groundwork created the narrative foundation for the Jedi's delegitimization. Even Dooku's death served his strategic function. His execution at Palpatine's command positioned Anakin to become the Emperor's new apprentice. By this point, Dooku had already weakened the Jedi militarily, politically, and ideologically. His removal eliminated a potential rival while ensuring the war's final stages would complete the Order's destruction. In evaluating Dooku's actions, the evidence indicates a systematic effort to transform ideological grievances into targeted institutional dismantlement. His strategies forced the Jedi into compromising positions, undermined their reputation, and contributed to internal fractures. The Clone Wars did not simply diminish the Jedi, they reshaped galactic perception of them. Viewed collectively, the canon demonstrates that Dooku engineered the conflict not solely to advance Sith interests, but as a calculated response to his own disillusionment with the Order. His actions leveraged political, military, and psychological pressures to expose what he perceived as the Jedi's flaws. By the time of his death, the Jedi were positioned for collapse, fulfilling Dooku's long-standing objective even as he remained unaware of the final shape the Sith plan would take.
Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that share button. My main channel is Critical Analysis Hub, where I post Star Wars content about the movies. My secondary channel is Critical Analysis Hub Plus, where I focus on the shows of Star Wars. And my third channel is Critical Analysis Hub XP, where I post comic books. Be sure to take a moment and check them out. Thanks, and may the Force be with you.